Hello, friends. I'm Lady Sophokleia, and welcome to the Hermekatean podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be covering Hermekatean Astrology and magic, or the magical system within Hermekateia, and how those function, and the importance of astrology in Hermekateia. So this episode is going to be quite a bit shorter than the last episode. I'm going to try to keep it within 15 minutes. And this is not going to be a deep dive into Hermekatean astrology and magic. This is going to be basically an overview so you can get the idea. Starting this spring equinox, I'll be opening the Hermekatean Mystery School, and the first section that we're going to go over is going to be Hermekatean astrology in depth, part by part. In today's episode, I'm going to be explaining a little bit about Western astrology, which Hermekatean astrology is based on, but we'll be talking about how Hermekatean astrology is different from Western astrology, as well as the purpose of Hermekatean astrology. This episode will be available for free on YouTube, but my patrons will get early access. So Western astrology, also known as tropical astrology, looks at the birth chart from the view of Earth. So the stars and planets as we see them from Earth. And if you go on Wikipedia, it will tell you that Western astrology is largely horoscopic. And you can see this, out in the world as a general everyday thing. For example, all astrology sites will offer to give your horoscope. People are more familiar with their sun sign than they are with any other part of their astrology. And all of this goes back to Western astrology. So we can think of the various parts of the birth chart as the what, how, and where of astrology. So the what of astrology is the planet. The planet is the thing that has made an imprint on you, that is affecting you in your birth chart. The how is the sign that the planet is falling in. And we call them planets in, I think most versions of astrology, they are called planets, even though we have the sun and moon, which are not planets. And the houses in Western astrology are the where, and what area of your life is the thing happening. So the planet is the thing that's happening. The sign or constellation that it's seen in is the how that planet is behaving, how it is expressing itself. And the houses are the where in your life the planet is expressing itself. Now, the when of astrology is the horoscope. And what the horoscope is, it's another snapshot, just like the snapshot at the moment of your birth. This is another snapshot that is taken at a particular moment in time and compared with your birth chart, so you can see the planets and where they're transiting and how they affect what's already there in your birth chart. So, for example, I could look at your birth chart and I could look at today's date and I could see what's affecting you. And this is essentially what an astrologer does. Now, in Western astrology, it is of utmost importance to have the person's time of birth. The exact time of birth is what's going to give you that snapshot. And if you're someone who doesn't know your exact time of birth, you might find that sidereal astrology works better for you because it doesn't require that. Hermekatean astrology is very much based on Western astrology, and so it does require having the exact time of birth. Now, the reason for this is a little bit different in Hermekatean astrology. So again, the purpose of Western astrology is largely horoscopic, and it tells you a lot about the psychology of the person, what kind of traits they carry, what kind of themes will continue to express themselves over the course of the person's life. The purpose of Hermekatean astrology is a bit different. The purpose of Hermekatean astrology is to show the person's place, essentially, on the soul's journey. On the soul's journey in this life, but also on the soul's journey through the lives that they have lived on Earth. In the previous episode, I talked about the spheres and how the soul passes through each of these spheres on its way sort of to Earth and to the body that they're going to inhabit. And this is essentially an instantaneous process that happens when the person is born. So in Hermekatean astrology, the planets are called spheres. So these are the spheres that the soul is coming through on the way to the body. And each of these spheres or planets is making an impression on the person. So yes, it can tell you traits, and we're still dealing with the what, how, and where. But even more than that, Hermekatean astrology serves to show the purpose for incarnating into this life, essentially what you came here to do, and that may be different from your actual profession, vocation, what you choose to do professionally. They can relate to each other, certainly, but the soul's purpose goes beyond that, because the soul's purpose is to learn and grow in this life. And it also shows how to transmute each of these traits in order to become the best possible version of yourself. Of course, horoscopes can absolutely still be done with Hermekatean astrology. It's not much different in that respect. You'd still pick out a particular date or use an ephemera, and you would map that to the birth chart to see exactly where the transits are, to see where the person is at that point in life today. And astrology is of paramount importance in Hermekateia, because in order to be able to see your way to where you're going, you have to know where you're coming from and where you are. So in terms of the spheres, the main ones of importance in Hermekatean astrology are the sort of original 7 spheres or bodies that are visible from Earth. So the Sun and Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Uranus and Neptune can be read if they have a particular placement in the birth chart. For example, if it's sitting on the ascendant, or if it is aspecting a major sphere such as the moon. But one primary difference in Hermekatean astrology is that we look at Pluto. And we look at Pluto as being this sort of boundary, essentially the Kuiper Belt, the boundary of the solar system, the outer bounds of the solar system. And the reason that we look at Pluto is because Pluto relates to your fate. And fate is a very important topic in Hermekateia, because in Hellenism, the gods cannot interfere in fate. And that's an important component of Hermekateia as well. We do not believe that the gods can interfere in fate. Fate can be changed, rarely, but fate ultimately is fate. Depending where it is or where it's located, it may talk about a person's death, but it may also talk about your purpose. And this is why Pluto has a special place in Hermekateia, because fate and purpose are two sides of the same coin. So I'm not going to go in depth on each planet, each sign, each house. We're going to go through all of that in the mystery school that's going to be starting at the spring equinox. But I did just want to give a brief overview of Hermekatean astrology, why it's important, and how it functions. So now I'd like to talk about the magical system in Hermekateia and The Hermekatean magical system is a sort of blended or mixed system between ceremonial and chaos magic. But I hate to say ceremonial magic because, we don't do the Lesser Key of Solomon. We don't necessarily call the quarters. We don't necessarily cast a circle. We can do all of these things, and all of these things would be within the Hermetic sphere. So in that sense, it is more chaos than ceremonial. But what it borrows from ceremonial magic is structure. So ritual in Hermekate is fairly structured. We invoke the gods. We will use either incense or something called kernips, which is where you take a kind of a little stick or a little stem from an herb and you light it, and then you put it in some water, and then the water becomes blessed by the smoke. And that is a very Hellenistic practice. In the chaotic element, it's kind of anything goes, kind of whatever you feel you could bring into your ritual or into your spell that's going to put a bit of yourself, that's going to raise your energy, and raise the energy of your working. And we also believe that when things go awry, that's when magic happens. That is sort of that womb of creation. And magic manifestation is all about creation. Magic is of paramount significance in Hermekateia because both Hermes and Hekate are deities of magic. And astrology is of paramount significance because it is said to be Hermes Thoth who first taught humans astrology. These tools are gifts of the gods to us. Chaos magic in particular is very near and dear to Hekate, because it is Hekate who teaches us that chaos is the womb of creation, and that it is through chaos, through the chaotic feminine energy, that we receive that magic. Astrology, too, is very dear to both Hermes and Hekate, because it is through astrology that we learn ourselves, and it is through astrology that the gods learn about us. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. I hope you've learned something new about astrology, about magic, and about Hermekateia. You can join the Sanctuary of Hermekateia on Patreon or the Hermekatean Library on Substack. Until next time, thank you for listening.